All right, everybody, welcome to No Putts Given, episode 210. On this week's episode, we're talking personal launch monitors. Do these $500 devices do what they actually say, and should you go spend your money on them? Also, we've got Mizuno 2020 prototype drivers. And we've also got a training aid called PuttOut that has now sold over 250,000 devices. And Tony has stayed up till 4:30 in the morning with his daughter, keeping her away from school.
That's
because he's addicted to this device. And this week on Shot of the Truth on No Putts Given, don't ever play a 64-degree wedge. Recycle it. Burn it, melt it, whatever you want to do. Don't play one. Tiger winning his 82nd win. Will he get his 83rd in 2020?
Yes.
Sam says he's going to get 83, 84, 85, 86, 87, 88. No Putts Given is powered by MyGolfSpy, the most extensive reviews in golf. Before you buy, MyGolfSpy. 9 million readers do it every year. Check us out. Halloween is today. Happy Halloween.
Yeah, you guys love it over here for Halloween. Anything to do with a holiday, you got it down.
I think this is our 10th year of doing a haunted forest.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to getting scared shitless.
You got a little friend sitting next to you.
Yeah, it's Clarice.
Clarice?
Since it's Halloween, I figured we would just go around and see if there are any Halloween horror stories, golf horror stories that you've ever had. Anyone?
No.
I have one.
No? What you got?
Usually by Halloween, the golf season's over for me.
Your horror is over?
That's...
I mean, my one is when I was a junior. You know, if there's a walkway that goes across the fairway on a par 5, and the guy was standing in the rough and wouldn't walk across. So I waved him across, and you know what happens when that happens, right? When someone just stands on the golf course, it's a magnet. He was an old guy too. So I hit it, and of course it was going straight at him, and I crushed it. It bounced once, hit him straight in between the eyes.
Ooh.
He went down like a sack of shit.
I'm confused. Yeah. Is this your horror story or his?
This is both. I walked over, and he goes, "Have you ever heard of 4?" And I said, "Yeah." I shouted it, and he goes, "What did you say?" He had 2 hearing aids in his ears, so he couldn't hear. His dog was trying to rip my nuts off.
Bro, his dog to the course too.
And then from then on in, I think I bogeyed the way in as a junior because I was so mortified.
Wow.
But yeah.
What about you, Sam?
You could have died.
Mine was also back when I was a junior. I was playing on this, junior circuit in the area, and it was a 2-day tournament, 2 different courses. I had never seen either of them. And I went up to Richmond and played the first round and shot 2 under 70. And it was like first time I ever carded an under par round in a junior golf tournament. And then I get to the next day and I'm, shaking in my shorts on the practice tee, trying to get ready, shanking shots, hitting them bad. And I end up playing, I think I shot like 40 on the front 9. I had like a 4-shot lead or something. And long story short, I get to the end and I lost by 1. And I doubled the last hole. But I remember it was just like, for me, it all happened so fast, but my dad said it was like watching a train wreck in slow motion.
Yeah?
Because I was like leading this tournament, and I go up and show up and like completely forget how to play golf.
It happens.
And to me, that was horrific. I mean, it was hard to sleep that night, I can tell you that.
Well, mine, I'm not going to try to one-up you because this is terrible, but this has to go back, I guess, when we were kind of juniors. I didn't find out until when I was like 35 that I had like major gluten issue.
Okay.
So take IBS.
I know what's coming.
I don't like where this is going.
I know what's coming.
Take IBS and a can of Skull Straight. And if you combine those two, we got 1 hole in. I hit my drive. We were driving in the cart, me and Chucky. And I said, I got to go. And he's like, well, there's a, porta potty on hole 3. And I was like, no, you don't understand. Like, we're on 1. I got to go now. So I literally jump out of the cart while he's still driving. And they had this trail, like a runner's trail in Hampton. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
So I grabbed a tree, and about probably 45 seconds later, I hear Chucky scream from the fairway, "Runner!" And all of a sudden, this girl comes running down the path, and she runs upon me with a combination of Skull Straight and IBS. And she was like, "Hey, how you doing?" I said, I'm doing well. I'm doing better now. So that was my Halloween horror story.
It's coming out like lava.
Oh my gosh. Wait, so she saw you going?
Yeah, absolutely.
10-2?
100%.
Wow.
Didn't care at that point. IBS, you don't care when you got that. That gluten intolerance, man, gets you. Don't drink regular beer.
Tony's got nothing.
No horror stories.
It's not a horror story every time you go play golf?
No, not anymore. He impressed people at Cobra, by the way.
Are you playing better? How's it going?
Good days, bad days.
He's trying to be.
Now I have no days.
This personal launch monitor test that we've got going on right now, finishing up it probably this week, I'd say. Publishing results maybe next week. One of the most recommended or requested tests we have had in quite a long time, because at this point we've tested most everything, drivers to shoes to even ball retrievers, right? So there's not much left for us to test. The amount of people that want to see how this shakes out is pretty impressive. Tony and I were talking about last night, like, why is there so much interest in this? And I guess it might just be because, wouldn't you agree, Tony? We've gone from $20,000 devices that collect all this data that are badass to $500, right? So that's attainable by almost every person to be able to go out there and buy one of these devices and, see how their game shakes out, see what they're producing.
Yeah, right. If these things work, it's kind of like the holy grail for consumers, right? Everything you could want at an affordable price in the launch monitor space, because I think certainly among our readers, right, who tend to be more hardcore guys, like everybody would love a Foresight or a TrackMan or even a Flight Scope, right? But for those premium products, I think your jump in point probably starts around 12. I think Flight Scope, the XI is a little bit less. You're talking 12 grand upwards of 25 plus for fully featured kind of radar based stuff, and to go from 24 to like 500, like it's
Yeah, and so Skytrack kind of got into this space a long time ago and intrigued people, right? Holy shit, $2,000. I don't think golfers even care whether it works or not. When I played baseball a long time ago, there was this ball that came out, and you had to, in the motion of throwing, you had to press the button and release it when you threw, and it would tell you how fast you threw the ball. When you have a scout come to your game, you got a radar gun on you, right? That was the only thing that people had back then, and this baseball came out, $99. Every pitcher in America bought one. The weird thing was, one time you would throw it, you'd be like, I threw 91 mile an hour fastball. The next time you throw it, I threw a 36 mile an hour fastball.
It was like a little rectangular digital screen, right? Yeah, I remember those things.
So the thing that Tony and I were talking about is that for the guy that hit 91, was it real? Was it not real? The baseball pitcher didn't care. He showed his buddy and said, look, I threw 91,
That's 16.
I think at 16. And golfers get these devices, and I think, we're finding out the reality of whether or not these things are legit or not. But if it tells you hit a 320-yard shot, Harry.
Oh, that's accurate.
That's right.
For Harry, that could be accurate.
There was a time, it was your first PGA show, was it 2 years ago?
Yeah.
We went over to the PRGR booth.
Yeah.
And they had their little personal launch
People
monitor
started
there.
to come around.
Because he was getting ball speeds of like 190 or something.
And I was hitting at like 345.
Yeah.
Yeah, so these things are becoming more popular, right? So the Skytrack came out a long time ago, honestly. And now all these, that's around a $2,000 device. But now there's all these $500 devices that are becoming more popular. The Mevo, the Garmin, the Rapsodo, there's a few of them, right?
Voice Daddy.
So there was enough of them and enough interest for us that we needed to put a test together to find out if you guys should spend your money. A $20,000 Foresight or TrackMan is the cost of an entry-level new car, right? Or a pretty good used car. Tony, what can you drive for $500?
A bike.
All right, but then let me flip it this way. Do you go out and buy a driver for $500 that you don't know is going to work?
Yeah, I think a lot of people do, but I get what you're going for.
Right? So, this is the cost of a driver these days.
That's a good point. And people...
In some cases, it's less money than a driver.
Exactly. It is less money than some of the drivers out here. So, it's exactly the same thing with these.
But here's my issue with these. it's their purpose, and what is the purpose of what the regular average golfer is going to use these for. If it's me, I'm going to the course to take my bag, right? And go, all right, what is my average distance for every club? I hit 10 shots with each one of my irons. It says I hit my 7-iron 192, right? That's my average. I go out there to the course, I get up to a shot that's 192, pulling out that 7-iron, right? But what if 5 of those 10 shots that it used as its average to give me 192 were 25 yards off, which has been the case with every one of these devices. I have now flown the green by 10, 20 yards or come up short 10, 20 yards.
I'd
right?
probably say come up short more than fly the green from 192, but...
Well, it depends if you're at Bob Parsons' place hitting 250 yard stingers, but...
Here's my qualms with a lot of these, and Mevo's included in that, is one, you have to dot the ball with the Mevo to get a relatively accurate reading.
Yeah, for the most accurate reading you can get, right, you need to put that little metallic sticker on.
And
the
yes,
ball.
that's about. I was seeing about inconsistencies about 2 miles an hour in ball speed difference compared to the GC Quad.
And Tony would probably agree with this. Ball speed is where what these things probably actually do best, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, certainly ball speed they can do pretty well, right? You don't need a large window to understand ball speed, and you're assuming, right, with a lot of these you have to input the club that you're using so
that's my annoying thing about every one
well,
of these.
I mean, it's kind of a limitation of these little Doppler things, right? So if you're using like a full-blown TrackMan or a full-size flight scope, right, it has a bigger unit, so you can imagine like projecting a big window that it knows to look through the ball. With the smaller Dopplers, you sort of your window is smaller, and so you sort of have to position it a little bit and give the unit a better idea where to look. And it may always be a limitation of the technology when one of the selling points of these devices, right, is the actual physical footprint. You want this to be able to fit in your golf bag.
The number one job of these things, minus the videoing capabilities, is to give you a number you can trust.
Yeah.
And if you can't trust that number, who gives a shit what size it is? It's worthless.
And we've talked about this. How are you using this? Where are you using it? But if your use case, right, is you take this thing to the driving range with you, and you're setting up and you're using it while you're hitting range balls, like at that point you have to wonder too, right? That's another piece of the discussion. What are you really learning if you're hitting a range ball? I don't know what meaningful information you're actually going to get, regardless of whether you're using a tiny little portable launch monitor, even if you have a TrackMan, right?
Takeaways so far that I hear are SkyTrack has been around 5 years. It still kicks ass, right? It's the best indoor unit that we've seen. For a little more expensive,
outside the enterprise class for sure.
Well, yeah,
Correct.
you're looking at about $2,000 for that unit. But if you're going to use it and you're going to set it up, that is closest thing you're going to get to a GC Quad.
Yeah, without the head data. And we're testing, just so everybody knows, against the GC Quad as our baseline. So SkyTrack, good indoors, really good indoors. Doesn't collect head data though. Cool UI, cool display.
Yep.
Indoors for the smaller $500 and under units, kind of wait a couple years is what you're saying.
I would wait a couple of years at least, and wait to see what comes out there, and then we'll keep testing them, and hopefully they improve.
So next up on No Putts Given is a new kind of release, whatever you want to call it, prototype that was seen on the USGA conforming list from Mizuno. But pretty likely these are going to be their 2020 drivers. You agree, Tony?
Oh yeah, no doubt. I mean, it's one of the limitations of Mizuno's scale as a metal wood producer, unlike Callaway, where you're going to see probably by the time the year is over 6 different versions hit the USGA list. With Mizuno, chances are if they put it on the list, it's for real and ready to rock and roll.
All right, so going around the room, anybody ever played a Mizuno driver for more than a couple rounds in here, like a full year almost?
No.
Tony?
No.
You?
Nope.
No.
Why do you think that is?
Well, I mean, I tried both ST190s at the beginning of the year, and it was odd. I actually talked to the Cobra guys about this last week. The standard ST190 was one of 2 drivers that I tested, and again, I put the same length shaft, in some cases the exact same shaft in different heads, and it was one of 2 drivers where I saw a 3 mile an hour drop in head speed consistently. And that's going to have something to do with the CG and the aerodynamics just not working for me. So that one, obviously, nobody's going to reasonably give up 3 miles an hour head speed before you even start looking at ball speed, right? So that was out, and the 190G, it just wasn't among the best for me. But we do see it come up quite a bit in true golf fit, right? So there are guys that it works for sure, and works really well for. I just wasn't one of them.
Yeah, I thought it was a good driver.
Yeah, I'd say it's like a consistent driver. It's just it didn't fit my parameters of my swing, and I just couldn't get it.
But don't you think that's interesting, right? Like, for a company to be able to make such a good iron and have so many golfers playing it without being paid to play it, why can't they get this driver thing right?
They spend all that time making.
Well,
irons.
how long have they been making irons, just irons? Like, I think they've tried drivers.
Well, I mean, they've been making drivers every bit as long.
Been?
I mean, I've been there. I've seen historically, and the thing is, right? It's like Mizuno doesn't make a bad driver, right?
Who does?
Right, exactly. As we've talked about before, the issue for Mizuno has been a complete lack of play on the PGA Tour, right? And it wasn't, Keith Mitchell won the Honda Classic with a Mizuno driver in the bag earlier this year, and I mean that was huge for Mizuno because
but dude, those people that are on tour are picking up those irons and playing those irons and doing well with them. So the fact that no one's playing them on tour is a sign, like you said, who's going to give up 3 mile an hour head speed?
Well, that's unique to me, right? That's definitely a me thing, and the aerodynamics and things like that. That's a rare case, but yeah, it's just one of those things where we've talked about it with Chris Vachal from Mizuno. And when the pay for play took over the PGA Tour and TaylorMade started dumping in huge amounts of money to win driver counts, and Callaway was trying to compete in that game, and Titleist throwing money at players to win counts, Mizuno decided very early on, and this is sort of part of the Japanese heritage and the way the Japanese do business, like they're not going to play that game. And so it became acceptable for them to not get any driver play. It was explicitly leaving that driver spot in the bag open. So like we say, what pros play isn't really that important, but there is a validation aspect to it. And so, if you have literally 2 decades, right? Almost exactly 2 decades without a Mizuno driver notching a PGA Tour win, perceptually that hurts the brand regardless of what the actual reality is.
Yeah, so
Good point.
Backing up to what these products are called, and the one is called the ST200, the other one's called the ST200G, and then the third one is the ST200X. And the major change on the 200, which is the replacement of the most mainstream driver, the 190, is what, Tony?
Well, from what we can see, right? Like, we're very early on. We're not in the embargo period, so Mizuno is not talking about these yet. But the most visible thing is just a change in the shaping of the weight. So they've gone from a kind of a round weight to a trapezoidal thing.
It's optimization through minor details, right? And that's where we're at in the industry. It's minor stuff that moves the needle, right? So the other one is the wave channel. It looks to be, at least from what we can tell, you want to have consistent ball speeds across the whole face, right? So it looks like they've changed the wave channel to maybe accommodate that. Would you agree?
Yeah,
Tony?
I mean, and that's what everybody's doing every year is just increase the size of the suite area, right? Which everybody defines a little bit differently, right? It's basically just, hey, how hot can we keep this over a larger area, and then how much speed can we keep at the perimeters when you really miss?
It's a valuable evolution not only for driver tech but also putter tech as well. You see putter companies doing it now as well.
There's not really any true, honest to goodness, world breaking technology anymore, right? We're at the limit now, and you're just trying to squeeze out a little bit at the edges if you can, or maybe cheat the limit a little bit by playing a game where you're working in the space that's the difference between CT and COR. But you're not gonna 10 more yards. That you're not gonna hear that anymore, and if you do, it's bullshit. Right?
Yeah.
Oh, you're still going to hear it.
Anyway, moving on to the next thing, and that's been around the news for a few days, and that's Gary McCord and Peter Kostis, being fired by CBS. Been talked about by a lot of people. Tony and I have both met Gary McCord, but just wanted to kind of talk about, after 30 years of being with a company, to me, that's like family, like you work with a company for 30 years. I mean, Tony and I have been together 10. I know a lot about Tony, I can't imagine Tony finding out about him being fired from My Golf Spy in like a tweet or a phone call that just says, yeah, see you later, adios, ciao, nice knowing you. You know, like there's something more than just a working relationship, especially after 30 years, right? And it sounds like they told the guy, you know, hey, you can stay as long as you want, and then come to find out that wasn't true. He's being replaced by Trevor Immelman, right? And Davis Love III. Is that correct, Tony? You're shaking your head. So what are you thinking there?
I mean, I think Immelman is probably going to be pretty good. I'm less sold on Davis Love for sure. But we'll see, I guess. But I think, right, the whole thing is like this was framed as that the coverage had gotten stale, and if you sort of think that through, then it's like, all right, that we need to freshen things up again. And just, you know, as others have pointed out, Davis Love does not scream fresh by any stretch of the imagination, just different. And I think if you kind of look at what's going on big picture, right, it's kind of a need to modernize, and you see what Fox is doing with the US Open, where they're really trying to get some new kind of the technical stuff and make it more like an NFL game with the graphics and things like that. And I think maybe CBS feels like the team they have in place doesn't have the capabilities to bring that kind of thing to life. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, maybe they're just trying to make golf coverage nap proof, you know what I mean? Like with all those Fox robots running around, and it's hard to take a nap during an NFL game. But
I got a great candidate for them.
Who's that?
Miranda Nodwell.
I can't believe she took your last name.
I'm so happy she did. We need to get the family name going. But yeah, I mean, she kind of did all that stuff in the Patriots when she worked there.
Yeah.
Made it fun and energetic. Maybe they just need some.
So you're looking to see if they'll hire her?
Yeah. CBS, if you're out there, just, you know, hit her up. She's available.
Back to the McCord situation, you know, why did they do this? It's just odd because you read the stuff about Davis Love III, and he's even saying you're replacing these guys with a guy that doesn't even know what his job is going to be. So you're replacing a guarantee with a maybe, right? It's just kind of odd. But
has Davis Love done announcing before?
He has. I think he's friends with the guy that runs the CBS Sports.
He's done some spots here and there, right? Kind of pop into the booth type of stuff, I think. So
yeah.
I mean, playing golf is completely different to commentating. It's a completely different animal. I don't know if they're gonna correlate the two. It could be an absolute flop.
Tony Romo, take that as an example, right?
Yeah.
He had no experience, and they boot camped him pretty well.
He
and
kills it. He's good.
Killing it, right? So let's wait and see. I mean, it could be better. You just hate to see the issue I had with it was that's just wrong, man.
Well, it's respect.
Yeah, for sure.
There was no respect.
Cut a guy down for 30 years like that. That's just like
I'm
zero
interested
integrity.
to see how these two new dudes do it because, you know, I'm only 26, so Gary McCord and Peter Costa is all I know when it comes to CBS. So it's almost like, you know, you were saying they're trying to nap-proof the game to make it less sleepy. And part of the fun of watching a PGA Tour event for me on a Sunday is taking a little cat nap between holes 8 and 14 and then waking up for the last 4 holes.
That is true.
So, you know, I'm interested to see how they do, and I don't know.
Yeah, and you don't know, but you feel like, right, maybe to a degree Gary McCord has been handcuffed. It's sort of those things like the guy on TV that can be a little corny versus the guy you meet in real life. You just sort of feel like, well, you know, why don't they just sort of give him no rules other than no F-bombs and turn him loose, you know?
Well, that's an interesting point. Like, you've met McCord, right? So have I, and you were thoroughly impressed with the guy. So was I. And that brings me to the question, you know, Tony, like, they uncuffing him, what could they have gotten, and do you think somebody else might pick him up and take exactly what he is, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's certainly way more interesting person in sort of real life, if you will, and again, part of that is you've on a typical weekend broadcast, you've got to sit there and come up with interesting things to say for 4 or 5 hours, right? So that's a challenge in and of itself. But you just feel like, you know, McCord has always been kind of a little bit of an outside the box guy, a little bit rogue, and I think, you know, for me anyway, you want to make it more interesting. Just let the guy go rogue completely. Let him be himself completely.
Let him be like no putts given, just riff.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
But that hasn't happened much in golf, right?
And it won't. It's still a tight ass kind of. You know,
I go back to us being on a broadcast once, and you know, I guess we did fairly well. And one of the guys that worked for the company said, "Hey, man, we got to do a show together, like a month show every week, something. We got to figure out a way to work together." Sounds great. You know, go to a meeting, higher ups. They pitched this show, and the guy says, "Wait a second. Are you talking about them doing this on My Golf Spy or them doing this for us?" And he said, "For us." He goes, "Oh, hell no." And he said, "What do you mean, hell no?" He goes, "We'll lose every advertiser we got."
Yeah, you'll lose a lot of corporate dollars.
Yeah, so corporate bucks make the wheels spin. So I don't think it's going to happen, but it's unfortunate because I think McCord was great, and I don't think people realize and understand how hard it is to do what he did really well and make it look as flawless as he did. You know?
And I know that Davis Love and Trevor Ullman have been around, what are they, in their 40s? I mean, Davis Love is probably in his...
Davis Love's he's like 55, I think.
So these guys have been around for a while, but I know you mentioned that Peter Kostis and Gary McCord have been around for so long. They have such a depth of knowledge of history of the game, so they're able to...
You don't replace that, man.
Right, and they can talk about experiences that... It was funny, I was listening to a lot of radio shows lately, and everyone's talking about Tiger Woods, and all these guys have covered Tiger Woods for so long. I've never seen the guy in person, and it's so interesting to hear their stories of they've been there for this many of Tiger Woods' wins. And they've been on the 18th green and interviewed him right afterwards.
Yeah, so they know not about just Tiger now. They know the whole evolution of Tiger, the ups, the downs, right? And as a person that hasn't met him as a listener or any story that you're hearing somebody tell, I think that's an important part to the recipe that makes a really good cake,
Yeah.
Transition into Tiger, obviously everybody's heard Tiger won for the 82nd time.
Yeah. Must have missed
Tony is not the biggest Tiger fan for anybody out there that doesn't know that. Sam is the biggest Tiger fan out there.
I didn't miss the 82nd win.
It was great. I mean, no one thought he would ever come back and win a major. He did.
There was a time where I never thought he'd win again.
I didn't think he was going to play
I kept the faith, though. But
there was a time where I never thought he would lose.
Well, that too.
So 82nd win, a couple cool stats. He was 82 for 359 starts. 22.8% win percentage, that's the highest. And if you go back to when he was hot, I mean, he won every other tournament, right?
But if you look at it, he's actually in the same percentage with 2019, I think. I think it was that kind of percentage of starts
I think you're right.
to win. I think he was the same percentage. So I think he's going to get to 83.
Well, 82 for 359, 683 weeks as world number one. Jack Nicklaus, 520.
Something, yeah.
520. 11-time player of the year, and he had the Tiger effect, and Tony probably hates to hear that, but I think love him or hate him, golf owes something to Tiger for sure, because without him, I think there's a major void and a pothole. Obviously there's the on-course stuff and the off-course stuff that you can choose to separate on your own if you want or not. So, all right, go around the room. Does Tiger get his 83rd win in 2020? Tony?
I don't know. I don't care. Probably. It's especially if he plays in, keeps playing in these B and C tier tournaments. I mean, that helps a little bit.
Wait, there were some really good players at that tournament.
I will put money on it that he will get 83, 84, and 85 in 2020.
Okay.
In 2020.
In 2020.
No Plus Given has become just a gambling
I
podcast.
think I will put money on it right
And
now.
no one
He
pays
gets
up
to
the bet.
85
No one
in
pays up
2020.
bets. A lot of IOUs on this
So
podcast.
many. I haven't lost
Just put
yet,
it on,
but-
charge the account. I'm putting money on it. He's getting 85.
I think he's gonna get 83. I don't think he's gonna get to 86 like he did.
Dude, his swing looked real good.
Does the Hero Challenge count?
This week on Shot of the Truth, don't ever play a 64-degree wedge. And Tony Covey, managing editor and golf equipment guru, is going to tell you exactly why.
Yeah,
He's
so it's
reluctantly.
I've carried one. They're fun. I get it. And you think you probably think you're magical with them, and maybe some of you actually are, but most of you aren't Phil Mickelson. So while I was out at Cobra, we got to look at some of the data they've collected for 4-5 years now, however long it's been since they've partnered with Arco, so they've got a ton of Cobra Connect data, and it was the one that stood out to me. They've got a chart that basically shows the percentage of the time you hit the green on your approach shot, not necessarily if it's your second shot or your third, but sort of when you're in the position to hit the green with a shot, and you look at across all wedges, right? You've got fairly consistent numbers, meaning even though you're probably a little farther out, you don't hit the green significantly more often with a 56 than you would with your 50 or 52, basically your sand versus a gap or something like that. But for guys who carry the 64, you just see this monster dip in the in the green hit or on approach, and so the theory is it's like, all right, well, sometimes you hit it, sometimes you blade it over, and then maybe the second time you go for it you get it on. But it's just kind of funny. It's just not a high probability club for most golfers. But when you see it laid out on a chart where wedge performance is like this, and you would think, hey, with a 64, if I'm hitting a 64, I'm probably a lot closer to the green than I am when I'm hitting a 50. And when you see it kind of go like that, you're like, yeah, maybe that's not the right play for a lot of guys.
Yeah, it's just a specialty club that's not that versatile, and for the most part, most golfers that struggle don't get to play enough golf, so they don't, they lose that touch, right?
Yeah.
And when you lose that touch and you're throwing a 64 in there, the chances of, it is awesome, right, to watch this 10-yard shot go 500 feet in the air, drop right down, but that happens way less often than it's supposed to.
Just get a 60 and open the face and practice that shot.
That's really cool to see. What's not really cool to see is when you try that shot banging off the leading edge and it goes 50 yards across the green.
Yeah, what's not really cool is when your buddy is in the bunker and he's waiting for you to hit your 64 shot, and it comes
take him out,
skimming over his head.
Yeah, you blade one of those, it doesn't much matter if the flagstick is in or not.
Tony, you played, or do you still play the 64? Did you take it out of your bag?
Oh, I haven't played a 64 for years. I still have one, and I take it to the course every now and again just because it's fun to mess around. Or if you're playing in a scramble, right, and you want to be the guy that hits the hero shot to an elevated green over a bunker or some such shit like that, sure. But I mean, if I were to sort of be realistic about my own probabilities of success, it wouldn't be great. I mean, it's a club that it's easy to blade, it's easy to leave short, and hard to hit where you want to. Like Adam said, really cool to watch when you hit it right, and if you're relaxed and just messing around on the green, it's a lot of fun. But if you've got any kind of money on the line, or you're trying to shoot a low score, chances are you'd be better off with something else.
Just get that alien wedge. Perfect.
True. We have that right over there.
Boom.
Isn't that 64?
That's a 79.
Uh-uh.
I'm just kidding. I have no idea what golf it is.
There was like
That's
that.
huge.
What was it like? Was it Field Golf or somebody
Yeah.
like that had like a 71?
Yeah.
I think
Few
like
people
71,
tried it.
72.
Here you go. I bet the advertisement is, hit yourself in the face when you hit a shot. It's fun.
This dude that made the alien wedge, Pat Simmons or whatever his name was, I mean, he had made a living off some crazy. Do you remember the Mac Burrows driver, Tony?
Oh, the one with it was Nike before Nike.
The one with the hurricane impressed in the bottom of it?
Yeah, like you got pissed off and smacked it and hit a golf ball.
Yeah, exactly. That, and then he came out with that wedge the next year. Remember when we came to the PGA show and we walked by this massive booth? I mean, he went all out, right? And there was this wedge. The face of it was like 1,000 cc's, and I was like, yeah, some dumb golfer's going to go buy that thing,
A lot
I
of
guarantee
dumb golfers probably bought that shit.
Yeah. So, anywho, moving on to dumb stuff that golfers buy, but I think more smart golfers are buying these than I thought about, because we just did a feature article on a training aid device that has sold over 250,000 of these units. And they only
seems like a
expected
lot. I mean, I don't know. It sounds like a lot.
Dude, they thought they were going to sell 5,000. When I heard that they had sold 250,000 of these things, I was blown away. And the device is called PuttOut. Tony got one a couple years ago, and he became instantly addicted to this thing. I don't think I have ever personally seen so much positive feedback about a training aid in all the years I've been doing golf. So why is this thing so addictive, and how did you get addicted to it?
It's just fun, right? And there's a challenge in it, right? Because like it's that immediate response where a lot of these things you're like trying to move your putter through gates or something like that, but something with the PuttOut when it goes up that ramp and sticks in that hole, like it's euphoria when that happens. And
Because it's so damn hard to get it to do it too.
And when it like almost sticks, when you think you've got it and it rattles out, it's like crushing, and you're like, oh, I'm gonna get it again, and I got a run, and on a run, and I hit like 3 in a row. I got to stick, and it, like one of the best days of my life, right? But the other piece of it too, like I know, right?
Aren't you married?
We need to get you out more.
Yeah, well, and one of the other thing that's really cool, like I'm always trying to get my kid interested in golf, and she'll go to the golf course with me because she likes to drive cart, and she'll hit 3 balls and call it a day, and again get back to driving the cart, and not particularly well, I might add. It's dangerous. But like, she loves using the PuttOut. Like, she's like, hey, can we putt? Can we get this out? You know, and so to kind of see her go through the same thing, where even if she doesn't give a shit about golf, like there's something
awesome.
about getting that ball to stick in that stupid little hole that motivates her as well. So
I think
it's just really cool.
Just seeing Tony's reaction to it is why they've sold 250,000.
Exactly, and this isn't by chance. I mean, they didn't stumble upon this, in my
That's
opinion,
smart.
by luck. These people behind this company, come
Real
to find
smart.
out, are sharp, and
Real
they
smart.
are good at everything I've seen them do so far, including the putting mats that they do. We haven't tested them yet, but after testing lots of mats over the years, even like the backing and the way they did the mat, the things they do just seem to make sense, which is really cool to see, you know?
Well, and it's not expensive. It's $30.
$29.
It's amazing.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that I don't know what the mats go for, and I'm not going to tell you it's the best putting mat ever. I haven't played with enough putting mats to really have any sort of real input on the comparative quality. But what I do love, like you said, everything is kind of well thought out, and you have these alignment lines, right? And just about most of these little mats have alignment lines, and you're like, yeah, whatever. But for me, it was like, all right, screw it. I'll use the alignment line and see what happens. And I put my putter down, because it's kind of like, it's got like one of the lines is like a cross section, so you can really kind of put the ball dead center. You know where it is relative to everything else. And I put my putter down, and I'm like, wait a minute, something's wrong here. Like, this looks centered to me. Like, what looks centered, according to these alignment aids, is out on the toe. And sure enough, I learned that what looked centered to me was actually out on the toe. And so just because of this mat, I made a very small adjustment to my setup. And, you know, it comes off the putter face different, right? Because now you're hitting it dead center in the middle where you're supposed to. And it's like one of those little things where just because of some simple little alignment thing that I initially thought nothing of, I found a flaw in my putting game.
Most of our readers have probably heard, or listeners of the podcast might have heard of Putout Golf. But if you haven't, go check out the article done by Rick Young. Really great piece about how it came to life and the iterations of where it started and where it is now and where they're going. So moving on to a couple other items. For anybody that does listen to the podcast, we have now added the podcast to our homepage. So if you want to just check on the latest episodes, not only the newest one, but the entirety of all the episodes will be live on the homepages from now on. We will be announcing the Titleist all expense paid trip to the Titleist TPI Center in Full Bag very soon. So keep an eye out for that. A couple other things we've put out there. This is Most Wanted season is for the most part over. We have the personal launch monitor coming out. We've got a CBD one coming out. But we've gotten a lot of feedback from people on certain categories that you would like us to test. And one of those is putting mats. And we got a lot of positive feedback. So if you would like us to add additional categories to our testing at the end of this year or in 2020, please let us know in the review section of the podcast, or send us an email, contact@mygolfspy.com. Let us know what you want to test. Harry got married, by the way, over the past weekend, and I don't know if you saw it, but he got his groomsmen all some custom wedges. His buddy over at Grind Your Golf made those, I think, and my favorite one
did a great job.
Yeah, is the Break Yourself Fool.
I got a guy who looks exactly like McLovin off Superbad, and it was a perfect representation.
What do you think of the
Oh,
wedge?
he loved it.
Did he?
Yeah, it wasn't offended at all.
Problem I see, though, is Harry posted a video of his wife after the wedding.
Oh, my God.
I laughed my ass off. She was very distraught. She had her head in a pillow on the couch looking like
She
was
just
trying to
realized she
suffocate.
married Harry.
Well,
That's
that too.
exactly what happened, Tony.
That too.
That too. But they had a good time at their wedding, I think.
It was a lot of fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nothing went wrong, which was, amazing. Would do it all over again if we had the chance.
You get married again?
With the same
Okay,
girl.
gotcha.
Yeah.
With the
Picking
same
up
budget
yeah.
and all that. And
Yeah.
credit
But now
card
I've got
debt.
this ball and chain on my finger and it's weird.
He's had the ring for 4 days. He's forgotten it. How many days?
Twice.
Twice. 2 out of the 4 days.
I know right where mine is. You don't wear it,
Yeah.
you can't lose it, or something.
But yeah,
like
if
that.
you want a custom wedge or whatever you want to go, just go check them out. Grind Your Golf. It's pretty. They did a very good job, and I was
Yeah.
very pleased with them.
Well, a couple last things before we go on this week's episode, and that is a reminder that we are actually hiring a full-time staff writer. So if you're interested, send in your resume. There is a link on our site for mygolfspy.com/jobs, and you can apply there. All right, everybody, that is episode 21 of No Putts Given. And until next time, and for the people out there that said No Putts Given had ended and was no longer around because we took a week off, yeah, we're still here. So we'll see
We
you
ain't
next
going
week.
anywhere.
No.
Not anytime soon.
Peace out.